Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kelsey and I'm here today to do my July wrap up. So I had a pretty successful reading month in July, but life not that successful, I would say. Not that successful. If you've been watching my channel at all this year, I've been going through like a pretty big life slump. Part of that is an attest to the books I've been reading. I feel like while I'm having some successful books and some books that I really like, I haven't been enjoying, I would say, the majority of what I'm reading, or at least that's what it feels like. So I feel like that's transcending or might be a cause of my life. I don't know, I just feel like I'm having a rough year mentally, and I think that that's pretty clear from my videos. I say it quite often. I'm also feeling a little slump with creating videos. You'll see in this video and the way I'm doing this wrap up, but I did have a lot of creative ideas for this month that just didn't fall through because I couldn't bring myself to edit the videos. So I wanted to do 2 vlogs this month. One was going to be an art vlog and another one was going to be a like reading self-help books vlog. And I just hated the vlogs. I hated the footage that I had and I just didn't edit them. So the like review of the book that I did in the vlog will be the review in this video just because I have the footage and I hate filming wrap-ups. So I don't feel like summarizing these books, and I read a lot of books this month. So those will be kind of like interjected when I get to the books. Anyways, whatever, we're just not gonna spend too much time on this. We will get into the statistics that I had for the month. I always love starting these videos with statistics. They're my favorite part of the video. So in regards to the amount of books read this month, I did read 14 books. That came out to a total of 4,894 pages, which is about roughly 158 pages per day, well above my goal of 100 pages per day for the year. So I'm really happy about that. And then part of those pages were actually hours listened. So I did listen to a total of 101 hours this month. In regards to the star ratings, I had 4 5 stars this month, which was fantastic, lovely, beautiful, amazing. I was so happy about that. 3 4 stars, 5 3 stars. So it ended up over surmounting my 5-star reads. 2 2 stars and 0 1 stars. So the average came out to about a 3.68 this month, well within the typical average that I tend to see. In regards to the author identities, I read 6 female authors, 7 male authors, and 1 author that identifies as genderless. In regards to the audience for the novels, 7 of the books I read were adult, 6 were YA, and 1 was a middle grade book. And then just in regards to the format, I read 8 audiobooks, 2 ebooks, and 4 physical books. Sometimes the audio and the physicals are kind of like blended together and I read along with the audiobook, but that is just like what I marked them in my spreadsheet. So before we begin with the reviews for the books, I will talk about the 2 books that I read for the month that have an other like video or form of other review. First, I'm gonna go with a 5-star book that I had this month, Good Omens. I tabbed this to pieces. I wrote notes in it. I absolutely love this book and I read this for my book club over on my friend's channel, Miss Adventureland. So I will try to find a link to that video and link it down below because I think we actually had a really good discussion on this book and we all really enjoyed it as a part of the book club. So I will link that. And then, of course, the Percy Jackson book for the month. This was Percy Jackson and the Last Olympian. Also give this 5 stars. Really love this. And I will leave a link to my vlog up above and down below as well. So like I mentioned, the first books I read for the month were a part of an art vlog I wanted to do. So the first book I read for that video was Cafe con Lichi by Emery Lee. And I will insert a clip of my thoughts and feelings here. First, we have Cafe con Lichi by Emery Lee. This follows 2 characters, one named Theo and one named Gabriel. The 2 are the sons of the only 2 ethnic cafes in a small town in Vermont, and they kind of have a rivalry of sorts because of that. However, when a new fusion cafe puts the guys and their plans for the future in danger, it makes sense to work together. So I just wanted to come on here and say that I did in fact finish Cafe con Lichi, and I didn't really enjoy this overall, and I'll definitely get into my thoughts, but I gave it a 2 stars. And I really want to emphasize that it's not for anything like horrible. Like there's nothing horrible that happens in this book at all that's like offensive or anything like that, at least in my opinion. But obviously I can't speak for like the gay representation and the BIPOC representation. In my opinion, it was done like fairly correctly, fairly respectfully. It's just overall this book didn't give me what I think it could have. So basically I was very excited to pick up this book due to the cover. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. I think it's beautiful. I think the colors are amazing. But I was still like slightly apprehensive to read from Emily Lee. I had heard that their first book, Mikyu Diary, was not or did not live up to expectations that people had of it. And it was specifically in regards to the writing of the book. And so I went into this hoping I wasn't going to see the same issues, but I ended up seeing the same issues. Like I said, it's nothing like bad or anger inducing. It's just everything was flat about the book. The characters, from our main characters to our side characters, were all very surface level and demonstrated their like actions and feelings as though they were really coming out of nowhere. It didn't feel in character to what we have seen from the characters before, simply because they were fluctuating between these feelings and actions like almost randomly. They never felt developed, and therefore because they never felt developed, their actions felt like simultaneous. It was a constant jump between emotions that really ruined the book for me overall. I do also think that Emery Lee was a tad ambitious with the idea of like a Romeo, Juliet, enemies to lovers, saving our parents' business, all of these things to wrap up in such a small amount of pages. I just didn't think worked. And that's potentially why the characters and the plot overall just fell flat, because there was just too much to tackle. I really wanted to love this because it's a queer BIPOC romance that I really wanted to like tell people to read, and like everybody has to pick this up. But I just feel like overall it fell flat, and for me that's a big issue. However, I think it's a cute cover. I think it is a cute romance. So if you still want to read something like light, fluffy, quick, I would recommend this book. But if you're looking for something with like structure, development of characters, I would steer clear of this one. The next book I intended to read for that vlog was Out of the Blue by Jason June. Here is the review. This is Out of the Blue by Jason June. As it looks in the front, this is a romance between a man and a mermaid. So basically Crest is supposed to be on a journey. So that's a month-long like journey that teen merfolk must undergo, and they have to help a human within one moon cycle and return to the Pacifica to become an elder. So in Los Angeles, with a human body and a new name, Crest meets this boy named Sean, who is a human lifeguard, and their boyfriend recently dumped them. So Crest agrees to help make Sean's ex jealous. Obviously, a romance resumes from there. So overall, this book was a lot of fun, but I do wish that it had a little bit more to offer. You can really tell throughout the book that June had a lot of fun writing this. The premise is super fun, and I would say that the first like 50% of the book was super engaging and super sweet. The rep in the book is fantastic, and I especially loved how non-binary representation is shown within the novel, and how the specificities of how it affects mer people is taken on when Crest goes into the human world. I did also really enjoy the fake dating aspects of the novel. They go exactly how you would expect them to, but I think they added like a cute spark and bonus to Crest's discovery of the human world. The novel, however, started to falter for me when the characters started acting like kind of out of pocket, and it's purely for convenience of plot over anything else. There needed to be like some sort of third act conflict, so the characters who didn't miscommunicate or have anger issues previously within the novel started to miscommunicate and have anger issues during this last third. It just felt weird to do this to establish characters that we have been having fun with and like grown to love. And while I understand the ending that June chose to go with, I did not particularly enjoy the way that it was shown to readers. Readers are kind of being pulled back and forth between two options, only to have the one that was kind of expected to be the choice happen all along. So like, why have this back and forth? Why go through this conflict? Why have anything at all when it could have just been fun and cute and a time for the time? However, I think if you're looking for like a fun, silly rom-com, this is the book for you. I did overall end up enjoying it, and I did give it 3 stars. After that, I picked up a anticipated arc. This is Katzen Yammer by Francesca Zappia, and again, the review. This is Katzenhammer, and it's by Francesca Zappia. This, from what I understand, is a horror story. So it's basically American Horror Story, which I love, meets the dark comedy of Kafka's The Metamorphosis as Kat searches for a way to escape her high school. So Kat doesn't remember why she's trapped in her school or why half of them are slowly transforming to save herself from the inevitable self-destruction all the students face, Kat must find a way out. And to do that, she'll have to remember what put her there in the first place. I gave this a 3.5 stars, but I'm not really sure how I feel about this because I'm completely like overwhelmed by the ending and over the concept of the book and the beginning of the book. I will start this off by saying that I think Zappia is a fantastic writer. I liked what I read from Eliza and Her Monsters, and I really liked what I read from in this book. And I think she took her writing to a whole other level with integrating these horror vibes into the book. And like I mentioned, I really loved the dual timeline. I think she did an excellent job with the dual timeline. I think the writing was really reflective in both instances. You really got an understanding of what was going on. The overall mystery of the novel was good. I really did wonder why the students were stuck in the school itself, but I do feel like the overall murders in the book were a bit lackluster, like how that was finalized didn't really come together for me. I did really enjoy Kat's character overall, and I really found her to be extremely interesting, and I really liked the journey and the story that she went through. And her friendship with Jeffrey just like really warmed my heart. I really liked how that went and how they worked together as like a unit. But I think the ending is the novel's biggest letdown for me, which was something that I was really worried about. I was really worried how it was going to come together, how these dual timelines were going to come together, but it's not how they integrated really, because I don't think it lined up exactly the way Zappia wanted it to. I kind of get why they were stuck in this loop, but I also don't, because some stuff was left to be really confusing. And I'm not sure that the book took on the path or like narrative structure that I think it should have for the topics that were presented in the book. I really like the horror aspects, really like this book. I would recommend it if you're okay with gorier topics, but yeah, overall those are my feelings. And then the last book I read for the intended vlog is This Vicious Grace by Emily Thied. Here you go. So I picked this one up because I saw somewhere that it takes place in Italy, so obviously anything that takes place in Italy, I'm there. So 3 weddings, 3 funerals. Alyssa's gift from the gods is supposed to magnify a partner's magic, not kill every suitor she touches. Now, with only weeks left until a hungry swarm of demons devours everything on her island home, Alyssa is running out of time to find a partner and stop the invasion. When a powerful priest convinces the faithful that killing Alyssa is the island's only hope, her own soldiers try to assassinate her. So, like I said, very, very, very quick read. There was a lot that I liked in this book, but I think you guys get the gist that there's quite a bit that I felt in this book that leaves much to be desired. I love that this was set in Italy, obviously. The setting was really lush, and I think the sprinkles of the Italian language throughout the novel added a nice touch. I think it really set the characters in the time and place that Emily Thied wanted them to be in. But what I think I love the most in the book is definitely the tension between Alyssa and Dante. I have a new trope that I love unlocked. It's a princess and a bodyguard. Any romance that will have that, I think I will like. I did not realize that I needed this tension. Like, I did not realize that I needed someone pining for their love when their love has to be married to royalty. Perfection. Like, the angst is there. It's written in the stars. And then also, minor spoilers, that Alyssa can't touch people and she can't touch Dante. Goodbye. I didn't know I needed this until yesterday. But saying all that, love the romance, obviously. You can see me freaking out. My appreciation for the novel really does end there. It really ends at the romance. I feel like there's so much in this story that could be more developed. Alyssa as a main character could have been more developed. I feel like we don't really get to know her that much. The magic system really needed more explaining. Like, that was one aspect that I did not understand. And then tied to that, the whole like religious evil baddies coming to get them and destroy them, and like this is something that happens throughout their history. Like, basic world building, I think also needed way more explanation and development. If it wasn't for the angsty romance, I definitely think I would have DNF'd this, just because it was such a typical like YA novel that I've definitely seen before. It had an interesting premise. I just wish that I understood the backstory a bit more. I think I would have liked it a lot, but in the end, typical YA fantasy, 3 stars, and that's it. I kind of really am enjoying this format because I don't have to talk about a lot of books at the end of the month. After that, another vlog I was going to do, and I think that this was really my downfall for the month, was reading self-help books. I read them because they are for my 30 before 30 list. I wanted to see if self-help books were for me. I don't think so. I think that part of my life slump, reading slump that happened last month was due to these books. So the first of which was The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, and here you go. Here's the review. I did finish The Alchemist. This was a fairly quick read. The audiobook was 4 hours. I listened to it in about an hour and like 40 minutes on 3 times speed. It was okay. I mean, I don't really have many thoughts. Did I hate this book? No. But did I find this book to be like profound, moving, engaging? No. The messages were really beaten down on the head. I don't know, like, I don't even know what else to say. I think if you're like really into like spirituality and like, I think you might like this book. For me, I don't believe in it. And I think that that's why this book was difficult for me to get through. I love If It's For You. This is gonna be for my mom. She's gonna absolutely adore this book. I understand that this book is about like the climb, the journey to the top, and like the real treasures are the adventures and memories that we made along the way. Great, fantastic. So 2 stars. It didn't really do much for me. It didn't offer me anything. But what did piss me off actually, because I could have seen myself giving this 3 stars, because like I see what it does for other people. You know, I see that it can be a helpful story. So everything in the world, according to this book, has a personal legend. Even the rocks on the floor. But we meet one lady, and she doesn't have a personal legend. She's just gonna wait in the desert for Santiago to come back to her. Is that her personal legend? Is that all we're gonna offer? Like the goddamn rocks have a personal legend of like helping the universe. I don't understand. After that, we had Daring Greatly by Brené Brown. This book just wasn't really doing anything for me at all. There are definitely like elements in the book that I resonated with or that I found intriguing, but I definitely think that Brené Brown throughout this whole book is speaking in very like privileged generalities. I understand like the idea of honing into very specific topics and focusing time and energy on one subject, because if you go too grand, it becomes obviously harder and harder to do. But I do think that shame and vulnerability and what Brené Brown was focusing on in this book is a grand topic. And so there's a lot of nuances that I think should have been discussed that Brené Brown doesn't talk about at all. It only discusses the gender binary, so only women and men. It only obviously talks from, and though she doesn't say it, a very white perspective. So I can only speak from like my experience, but having generational trauma from immigration and living within a community that is just of your culture, shame and guilt and vulnerability are topics that I think need to be discussed in, I don't know, like a more nuanced way. Like I just feel like it's very easy to say like you need to dare greatly and be strong and do all of this when you're not really being hounded on expectations that you have because you are representing your family who came here at the same time as someone else. If you get what I'm trying to say. I did appreciate how Brené Brown would talk about her own experiences and how she herself learned to be more vulnerable. I think it was really interesting to see how she takes that and how she uses that to discuss how she became a better parent, or how her own mistakes and shame within herself she then applies onto her child, and how they've done and what they've done to work together. The context of everything was interesting. The general idea was interesting, but I just wish that this had more depth and layers. It was 250 pages. It was a quick read. I definitely tabbed like some parts. I think there are parts about shame and guilt that I think are relevant to anyone. Some of them that are more specific maybe to my own experience, but that's it. Like it was very like surface level, like 3 out of 5 stars. It was an okay book. And then finally for the non-existent video, we have Atomic Habits by James Clear. I think you can guess another 3 stars. After hearing the glowing reviews of this book, I thought it was going to be life-changing. I had very, very, very high expectations on this book, and I guess it's my fault for putting those like high expectations on it, knowing full well that by the end of this week, I was going to realize that self-help books are just not for me. I think the ideas presented in the book are like really good and palatable for a wider audience. No chapter felt like it was filled with economic jargon or scientific jargon, and I really appreciate that. I do think it's important for widespread books like this. And while I do agree and find that this can be helpful, I just found it to be so repetitive at its core. It laid the frameworks down, and again, while helpful, were nothing really groundbreaking. It then became a slog to get through after the 15th time that tips were like repeated to you, or sentences and like ideas and concepts are repeated to you. I found a lot of the writing to be like really cheesy. Like in this book, that line where it's like telling the story of like someone who's struggling, and it's like, that man was Steve Martin. And I was like, this is the cheesiest writing I've ever read. I definitely agree that habits are important and they help establish a routine for people. And that overall message is very clear within the book. I do think that this book will give you helpful tips and tricks. I definitely like tabbed some moments. There were definitely some things that resonated with me. So I do agree that if you're looking for that type of information and that type of help, that this will provide you with what you needed. But slowly over the course of this video, I realized that self-help books, they're just not my jam. So the next book I'm going to talk about is Finley Donovan is Killing It by El Cosimano. And I read this for my friend Danny over at Current Chapters Discord buddy read. I did not expect to go into this loving this, and I ended up really enjoying this. So this follows a woman named Finley Donovan, and she is kind of struggling to write her book. Finley writes cozy mysteries, so one day when she is discussing the mystery of her novel over like a coffee date with her editor, another woman besides them hears her and mistakes her for being a contract killer. So this was a lot of fun. As much fun as I think self-incriminating oneself into a murder investigation. So I really enjoyed Finley as a main character. I think she is believably relatable, and I was rooting for her the entire time. I have always really loved cozy mysteries, and I've been looking for these excuses to kind of dive back into the genre. So Finley really gave me the perfect excuse to get back into them. I love the vibes of cozy mysteries, and they are always such quick and fun reads, and I don't think Finley Donovan deviates from that at all. It had everything that I expect and love in cozy mysteries. The entire plot of this was really fun, and I was really interested in seeing how it would unravel. The audio narrator for this book was amazing, and I would totally recommend and will be listening to this entire series on audio. I really enjoyed the relationships that Finley develops in the book, whether it's through friendships or through like romantic relationships. They were all really, really, really good. My one tiny like little complaint, and I think that this might be a complaint that you can argue for any cozy mystery, but it's the disbelief that Finley could really get away with so much. But I really needed a like mindless audiobook to listen to. It didn't falter my enjoyment too much, and the epilogue that this book ended on, I wasn't sure if I was going to continue with the series right away. I knew that I enjoyed it, but that epilogue made me know like I need to get to this soon. I will definitely try to pick this up in October. Really like this, gave it a 4-star, and I would highly recommend if you haven't picked it up yet. After that, I was watching Gabby Reads' videos where she read all 5 of the Paper Girl graphic novels, and I realized that I had really enjoyed this graphic novel when I read it, I think in 2016, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, July 2016. And I realized that I had never continued the series. The Amazon Prime show is coming out, so I decided to just pick it up again because I remembered enjoying it. So Paper Girls by Brian K. Vaughan follows a group of these teenagers, and they are all paper girls. They go on a paper route. They throw newspapers, you know what I mean. Basically, they all come together because they all kind of follow along the same route, and one day they get tangled up in like this supernatural, like sci-fi scenario where people from the future, teenagers from the future have come back, and the story unfolds from there. What I think is really funny is that I read this in July of 2016, and then I reread it again in July of 2022. It seems like something that would have happened in Paper Girls, so I think that that's really funny. In 2016, I gave this 5 stars, and like I mentioned, I never continued the series despite actually really, really, really enjoying the graphic novel. As with most of Brian K. Vaughan's writing, if you don't know, he is also the writer on Saga. I really enjoyed this story. Vaughan gives you just enough always to both understand what's happening but keep you intrigued. The characters are wonderful, and I remember enjoying them when I read it the first time, and I'm really excited to see like where they go forward, especially in the different timeline of the book. Of course, the series deals with something that I absolutely love, elements that I love, the 80s, time travel. So I was obviously going to love it. I still remain and give it a 5 stars. I really, really, really enjoyed this, and I highly recommend if you like sci-fi 80s vibes. After that, I continued my read of the Wheel of Time series with The Dragon Reborn by Robert Jordan. The Wheel of Time is basically about a group of boys who are kind of chosen by this like wizardy woman because she has an idea that they are kind of the chosen ones. And before the evil side of magic finds them, she wants to take them kind of under her wing to bring them with her and practice magic and that kind of thing. The series kind of grows from there, but that is like the basic gist of the synopsis. So what really astonishes me every time I pick up a Wheel of Time book is that I'm always worried that I'm not going to enjoy this series anymore. But yet I find Jordan really does an excellent job at pulling me in through the second half of the novel. When I start the books, it takes a while to get back into it. Robert Jordan has a specific way of writing that is very like classical fantasy that I don't think I particularly enjoyed that that much, but then the plot kind of pulls me in the second half. And I am really enjoying where this series is going. I won't go too much into details of the overall plot and what I enjoyed about the plot in order to like avoid spoilers, but I really enjoyed in this one the development of Egwene's powers. I won't go into detail about what, but that. Perrin and the potential love interest, I really enjoyed that plot line and I'm excited to see how that develops. Matt is a character that I vehemently hate in the first two books. I really don't like him, but he somehow got a bit better in this book and I appreciate that a lot because Robert Jordan made me somehow like this character. And I really enjoyed the development of Ran and where that story is going. So I'm interested to see how those plot points are going to develop from this book. These last three books were pretty formulaic of how they continued with the characters' journeys and them going on this journey and they're kind of like walking everywhere. Now that they're all finally together again in this book, I'm excited to see if Jordan moves away from that formula or if we're going to continue in this cycle. I'm hoping something different will happen in the next book. It's fucking huge. I'm a little bit scared of it, but I did, like the others, enjoy this book. I gave it 4 stars. It's a pretty solid read, and if you enjoy classic fantasy, I don't think you can go wrong with the Wheel of Time series. Then I did a reread for Throne of Glass. If you watched my last wrap up, I am reading the Throne of Glass series as a part of Mel Reads' Patreon. However, I am going into this kind of trying to see if it relates to the entire Massverse, Sarah J. Maas's universe. This was her first series and it follows a character named Selena Sardothian. Selena is this well-renowned assassin. She was put into this like worker prison salt mine for a crime and she is saved by Dorian and Kiel. But the catch for being saved is that she has to enter this competition in order to be the king's champion and do whatever the king says, and this is the main book where that kind of competition happens. When I first read this in 2016, that's weird because it seems like the rereads I was doing in this video are all from 2016. Weird. But when I read this in 2016, I gave it a 4 stars. Objectively, I think this is a 3-star book. Is everything really obvious? Yes. Can you tell that this was written from a 17-year-old Sarah J. Maas? Absolutely. Was I dumb when I read this 6 years ago at 23 and not picked up on anything at all, any of the hints that she was giving? Yes, as well. Maas obviously didn't write the most intricate fantasy, but I think if you want to remove your brain for like 9 hours, I think this is a really quick and fun read. For nostalgia's sake, I'm gonna give this 4 stars, but was it the best thing ever written? No. And finally, I read one of my favorite books of the year. I read this as an ARC from NetGalley. It's Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. This is the story of 2 friends, one named Sam and one named Sadie, who come together in order to create video games, and the novel spans their lives from when they were really young to when they have released multiple games and are at very different points in their lives. I was putting off this arc for a really long time. It came out in July and I put it off for weeks because I was super scared of it and I had every right to be. It wasn't as scared that like I didn't think I was gonna like it. I actually really did think I was gonna like it and I was worried that I wasn't going to. I almost feel like this book was made for me, and that's part of the reason why I was so intimidated by it. The novel is very much about video games, yes, absolutely, but it's also about the creation of them and the designing of video games. And if you don't know, I do work in the video game industry, so that element definitely kept me interested in the novel from beginning to end. Sam, Sadie, and Marks are truly these like meaningful characters who absolutely hold the story together and make readers care about every single element of their lives that happens to them. I cried reading this multiple times because I felt so much for these characters, especially Sadie. I related to her so much as a woman working in video games. I also really enjoyed the different techniques that Zevin included in the novel. Some of the chapters are written in second person, some of them are playing out as though you are within a video game, and I thought that that was really creative. It was unique, it was fresh, and I really enjoyed this book. I don't think there was any way that I could have read this book and not enjoyed it, so I absolutely gave it a 5 stars. Definitely my favorite of the year, and I can't wait to purchase a copy of my own. But that's it. Those are all of the books I read in the month of July. Let me know if you liked this format of like including failed clips from my vlogs. I really enjoyed that I didn't have to film quite a long segment in this heat. If you would like to follow me on any of my other social medias, I do leave a link down below to my Twitter, Goodreads, and Instagram if you would like to follow me there and get updates for whenever I read something. But because it is the end of the video, please do not forget to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. I tell you every time, but it does wonders for my channel. It makes me feel really special, and I'm so grateful for every single person all the time, at all, any way you interact with my channel. But that's it. I feel very awkward now, so I don't know how to end these things, and I will see you next time. Okay, bye!